Hello everyone, in this tutorial we're going to be looking at creating actions in Photoshop. Actions are a really helpful tool for for an artist in Photoshop. They'll basically carry out a load of repetitive tasks for you all in one go very quickly by sort of like Photoshop itself, rather than you having to go through the individual like menu items and go through a series of tasks yourself. We'll have a look at some of the actions that I've got set up for doing some comic art, and we'll have a look at the basic process for creating your own actions as well. So let's get started. Okay, to begin with, I'm just going to select another image to use so I can show you how the actions will work. This is one by a friend of mine called Chris Imber. It's a Deadpool sketch that he's completed. So to begin using actions, we need to open up the actions window. To do that, we click on the play button in the top right hand corner here. I'll just zoom in on that for you. A little play button there. If you haven't got this layout of Photoshop, you can bring up the actions window by going here to Windows. To Window, Actions, and or you can use Alt F9. So click on that, and you'll get the actions window up here. And if we scroll down to the bottom of the actions window, it's the standard new icon in Photoshop here, just before the trash can. So if we click that, it will bring up a dialog box here. So you can see we give the action a name. I'm going to call this flip. And then it says the set of actions that we want to assign it to. I've only got one group of actions. I'll zoom out here on the window. I've got a group called My Actions at the top here. You may, if you've got a lot of actions, it's probably worth grouping them into these folders. But for my purposes, I've only got the one set, so I'll leave that as going into My Actions. And then the best part about actions is that you can assign them to function keys. So you can use the drop down box here and to pick which function key that you want to use. I'm going to choose F2. As I've already got an action set up for F2, it's giving me the option of Shift F2, so that's fine for these purposes. So I'll go ahead and press record. As you can see, it's created this new action over here, which is fine. And just down the bottom here, you'll see the little record icon is showing as well. So we can press stop on that at any time. And if we want to go back, we start recording it again. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. So we zoom out. So it's recording now. So most of the stuff that you do in Photoshop, you can record as an action, whether that's doing something simple like selecting the canvas, selecting a particular tool that you want to use. Anything really can be recorded. So for this purposes, I'm just going to use go up here to the image rotation and flip horizontally. So I'm going to record that, and that's all I want to do. Sorry, I should zoom down that. That's all I want to do is this action. So I'm going to press the stop icon there. So you can see that's recorded there. The flip, and it's see here. Flip first document and the horizontal, and it's assigned to Shift F2. So now, anytime that I press Shift F2, very quickly flips the canvas. It's obviously very good for drawing and colouring. It gives you a kind of bit of a fresh eyes on a picture, and sometimes when you're drawing, you can draw with a bit of a slant as well, particularly if you're doing it on a flat desk. So this is really useful. And that's the basic kind of process for recording actions. Obviously, you can do ones that are a lot more complicated than this. You can see, if I look at my line art one here, there's a lot of steps here. I'll zoom in on that for you. There's a lot of steps here. So when I'm doing my scannings in a line art, it will reset the swatches, select the blue channel, change to RGB and things like that. There's a lot of actions you can see in there, but you can imagine if I'm doing all this process manually, that's a lot of time every time you're starting a picture. So the fact I've got that all set up as an action to do it automatically is really a massive time saving. If I want that, I'd probably use the most is the one I've got the top here. I call it the expand selection, and all it does is it's recorded me going to the selection tool here and going to modify. I haven't got anything selected, so it won't allow me to do that. Let me just make a quick selection. There we go. Go into the selection here, modify, and expanding this by 1 pixel. And so I've got that assigned to the F2 key, that I can keep on pressing the F2 key just to slightly increase that selection, which is really useful when I'm doing flats. I can use the one tool to select an area. Actually, not particularly useful on this. No, that's going to work. I'm going to use I. No. Just do this and try and show you how it works with his eye. There we go. So his eye there. If I'd selected that, I can just press the F2 key just to expand that to make sure it goes over the line, and then I could potentially fill that in if I wanted to. So that's the way that I would use an action like that. But I've got a few that are set up. So one to save the image for publishing to the web. One to save it for print. One to want to flip it over. Well, different things like that. Anything that you do regularly, that just repeatable tasks, you can set as an action. Hopefully, you speed up your process, allowing more time for colouring and drawing. So that's the basic actions. There's a couple of additional things I'll chuck in there, which are the slightly more complicated bits of using the actions. If you go to the menu item here, I'll just zoom in here. In your actions, you can insert a menu item, and you can insert a conditional. Inserting the menu item, if we click on this, it will record whatever menu item you're selecting here. So the only ones I think I've used this on are where I'm trying to pull up like the save as dialog boxes and things like that. That's the way I use it. So if I go in here and choose the export save for web option, and you can see it's kind of save that in there and press OK. And this obviously you would never do to flip a canvas and then save it for web, but I'll show you what it will do. So if I press Shift F2 now, it's flipped it and it's brought up that dialog box. So that's the way that you would use something like that. You may use it for example, if you pull up a filter regularly for something like Gaussian blur or something like that, you might not want to apply exactly the same blur every time, so you wouldn't record the action that you're doing, but you want to bring up that menu item every time. So for example, you may make, let me just do a new action. Action 1 is fine. So I've got a new action there. Let me just stop the recording on that. Make a selection there, for example. And what you may do, you may want to, when you've got a selection made, you may want to bring up the Gaussian blur, but have that assigned to a key, for example. So I'd insert the menu item, zoom out, insert the menu item, then go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and so you can see it saved that there, and press OK. So every time I make a selection now and I run that process, it will bring up the Gaussian blur dialog box, which might be exactly what you need, or you might be applying some other filter regularly that you want to apply. Obviously, you can assign that to a key. So if we've got that action selected and we choose the options and choose action options, we can assign that to any key we want. So yeah, let's do Shift F3 on this one. So anytime I press the Shift F3 key, brings up that. Let's blur that a little bit. Another selection here. There we go. Like very quickly you can do that, rather than imagine every single time you would have to come up here and press the filter and the blur, Gaussian blur and things like that. If you do want to bring up the dialog box, it's a lot quicker process. So that's the menu items one. The other the more advanced kind of options in actions is the insert conditional. So I'll show you what that does. If I create a new action, I'll just call that action if, and I'll say that to the, let me do this, the F5 key, Shift F5. So I'll record that one. And what I'll do is I must insert a conditional. And you've got all these options of what condition you're setting. These obviously all depend on what you're trying to achieve, and I'm just making you aware that you've got this capacity. So you've got things like if the document's landscape, if it's square, if the mode's RGB or CMYK, it's whether the layer is the background, whether it's locked. So you can see from the list there's quite a few different options. Let me zoom in on that so you can get a better view. And there you go. You've got quite a few different options that are available there, and it will depend on obviously what you're choosing. I'll just select this option here. Say if this layer is the background, and then it's going to do one option here. If it is the background, it's going to do another one if it's not. So let's try. If it is the background, then let's flip it for argument's sake. And if it's not the background, let me merge down, which is an option where I've got where it merges the above layer to the layer below. So let's just give that a whirl. So if it is the background layer, which I've got selected here, so let's give that a go. So I should zoom out a bit more. So we've still got the background layer selected. So I've pressed Shift F5. No, it's coming up with an error there. What's it? It's because it's locked. Because I can't flip a locked layer. So that's not going to work. So let's. I think that's right. Oh, it did work. Sorry, it was still in record mode. So you can see, because it's the background layer, it's doing this. Whereas if I tried exactly the same action on this layer, and this layer's above, I might have sort of painted something on this for argument's sake. Probably not that. But if I press exactly the same action on when I've got this layer that's not the background layer, there you go. You can see it's merged it down. Again, you wouldn't particularly use it in that in that way. I mean, I think the only time that I've used that conditional is when I'm doing a save for web, and basically if I'm working on a CMYK file, it will convert it to RGB before saving as a JPEG. So I think you can probably see that. You can see that here. And zoom in on that for you. My save for web option here, you can see they've got there's the conditional statement here, and basically what that is saying in there. There you go. If the current document is CMYK, then it'll play my converter action, which will convert to RGB. So that's the way that I use that conditional. But obviously everyone's needs differ, and so just letting you know what that option is available if you do need it. I think that's everything really on actions. Really, they're really useful. Can be a big time saver for you on your kind of on your workflow. So give them a go really, and give it a try. See how you get on. Thanks very much for watching. And as always, if you want to check us out, we're at recklesshero.com. So thanks. See you next time.